Really a beautiful day. Is about 75 degrees, but guess what? I'm kind of in a bad mood today, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Cleveland Kate and Brandy Fairfax are going to be joining me in 1 second, but we're going to go and talk about how disappointed we are in the Cleveland Browns. So we got to start with them first. Yesterday, the Cleveland Browns dropped the contest to the Baltimore Ravens, a division rival who is not the best team in this division as well. But now with this victory, they are, I believe, tied for second place or in first place. And we lost to the Baltimore Ravens yesterday, 23-20. So I know people in the city are pretty upset about what's going on, but you know that we're here to talk about it today. And we're gonna do just that. So I'm trying to stay in a good mood. But you know, one of the things that's going on is that the Cleveland Browns are placing themselves in position to win every game that they've played in, even the ones that they've lost. And usually it's something at the very end of the game that takes place. And I can't even say that defense was terrible yesterday. Defense wasn't even that bad. Defense actually looked a lot better than they've looked in the past couple of weeks yesterday. So it wasn't that. It wasn't necessarily the offense yesterday. The offense, you know, did what it does. It score points. One of the things you can always say is that, you know, you get away from the run, you stop using Nick Chubb, that could be a problem. Special teams wasn't the best special teams. You got to kick blocked at the end where you had every opportunity to win, but you know, you were able to contain Lamar for the most part. You held Lamar to 9 passes and still weren't able to win the game. You held Marcus Mariota to 7 passes. We're talking about NFL quarterbacks here. You're holding them to less than 10 passes a game, and you're still not able to win these games. You let Bailey Zappi come in here and put up 300 yards on you, and you get your butts whooped. But you got other quarterbacks that you allow to have less than 10 passes a game, and they're winning these games. So what is really going on? You know, one thing is that, you know, we keep hearing that Kevin Stefanski is, you know, sick and tired. We just have to be better. You know, he's putting these losses on him. But, you know, at the end of the day, the players have to go out and play. And that's one of the things that is one of the issues, is that the players are going out and playing to their best ability. Are they just not good players? Did we overrate these players and who they are? That's one of the things that we can look at. You know, Jadeveon Clowney himself said this is one of the best teams that I've ever been on paper, but this team isn't going out and playing like it. And right now, you know, when it comes to the trade deadline, they were looking to be buyers, but right now they have to look to be sellers because you might have to offload some talent to get back some first round picks. If this season is over right now, the Cleveland Browns are sitting at 2-4. I never say never. I would never say that the season is over right now because things can be turned around, but now you're getting into the heart of this NFL schedule where it is tough. And one of the things is, you know, when we came into the beginning of the season, we said that there were games that the Browns absolutely could win, and they were must wins. And one was that Carolina game, and they were able to pull that out. But that was a game in which they might have lost too. So that's one of the things that you have to look at. They got very lucky at the end. K. York, a 58-yard field goal, and they were able to win the game. Hey, Brandy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Hey, sorry about that. How you doing? I turned the volume up.
It's okay. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, Cleveland K, how y'all doing?
Not good, but thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I said the same thing to open up the show, but I said I'm not going to let the Cleveland Browns make me mad. I was doing okay, but now I think you get me mad too, Kate, because I was even killed when I came in here, but now I'm getting mad.
Yeah.
So let's
Me
talk
too.
about this. Where do y'all want to start? Do y'all want to start with offense? Usually we start with offense. Want to start with defense today or special teams? Which one y'all want to start with?
We start with Nick Chubb.
Okay, go ahead. Start with Nick Chubb.
He had 16 attempts this week. He had 12 the week before. He had 17 the week before. Why we can't get him 20 carries? I can understand because of the butt whooping we took 2 weeks ago that maybe they felt they couldn't run the ball against New England for that 12. He only had 16 carries this week. And they were effective. We averaged 4.7 yards a carry in the rushing game Sunday. Why didn't we do more of it? I don't understand it. To your point, neither offense, defense, special teams. None of them were horrible, but they didn't feel like they were working together. And the referees didn't do us any favors either, my friends. Some bad calls and some bad no calls. I ain't blaming the loss on the refs. That just contributed to it. But I'm really struggling with Kevin Stefanski's play calling and why we're not using Nick Chubb more. Why Jacoby Brissett? At one point Sunday, I questioned which team he was playing for. I don't know why he's making the decisions he's making. I'm like, wait, is he on my team or not on my team? Because he is a seasoned quarterback in the NFL. He should know when there are situations where you absolutely cannot take a sack. And he does it repeatedly. He takes us out of field goal range with a sack where he should have gotten rid of that ball. He held on to it too long, and he did it again this week, took us out of field goal range. I don't know what to do with him, but my biggest frustration is why did Nick Chubb only touch the ball 16 times? 20 or more, and we win. When I'm looking at the game logs for this year, in the games that we won, he touched the ball 20 or more times.
Yeah, do you have the stats on how many we threw and how many we passed? I think it was
no, but Amari Cooper had 3 receptions on 4 targets. 4 out of 5 if you count the one where he got called for pass interference, which frankly was a ticky-tack foul to me. He didn't need to do it. It didn't affect the outcome of the play, and they'd been touching on each other the whole game, and the refs suddenly decided they were going to call that. But why, he had 74 yards. Everyone's like, oh, Amari Cooper, killed it this week. In the times that we bothered to go to him, I'm not understanding the play calling. I'm not understanding.
Yeah, so 24 rushes and 27 passes. So I guess you could look at that as kind of balanced. And Nick Chubb had 16 rushes for 91 yards. So once again, they had him rush away from his average of 100 yards per game.
With the game on the line, when you need a first down, why are you not going to Nick Chubb, who is unstoppable? Why are you going to some third-string tight end that we don't know? I don't understand the play calling. You have to be bold. When you have a player like Nick Chubb, you have to be bold and you have to use him. That touchdown he got was a situation where the defense just figured we were going to throw it because that's what we do. We don't actually run the ball on second and goal, with 2 yards on second or third and goal, whatever it was, where you only need 2 yards for the touchdown. We've been throwing it. So great. You've been all year. You faked them out and they bought it and they expected to throw. And Nick Chubb almost went untouched into the end zone. He is somebody that you have to go to in these situations, even if the defense knows it's a running situation, because he's good enough and he's going to command respect. You at least have him on the field. If you're not going to throw to him in the backfield, you at least put him on the field and make the defense account for him and make them worry about him.
Brandy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree, sticking to the run game, because that's the things that have always worked for the Browns, especially the past couple of seasons. But I think, one of the biggest frustrations so far to me on the offense is also how they've used Kareem Hunt. Sometimes we're not seeing him in until the end of the first quarter. Yesterday, we didn't see him until, the second quarter, and then he gets in, and the back-to-back plays, he immediately gets stopped. So I think the play calling there just wasn't the best situation. And I did see earlier that they are looking to maybe place Kareem with a different team, which I think that will definitely hurt the Browns losing him. And he only had 5 carries yesterday, but, we saw what he did, especially in week 1. He had 2 touchdowns in week 1.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, 5 carries and he had 4 yards. And I like the one play where it was the fake to him and then it was a sweep to David Njoku. So I think that play was executed. So I think, he was a great decoy because you saw that defense knew that it was going to be a running play. And then they went ahead and got the sweep and they were able to get the couple yards that they needed to be picked up. But they absolutely are going away from the running game. And I don't understand why. I didn't see the Baltimore defense doing anything differently, stuff in the box or anything like that. So I don't understand why they go away from the running game, which is you have the number one, and he probably might still be the number one rusher. I know it was between him and Saquon Barkley, but you have the number one rusher in the NFL. Why would you go away from the top player on the team? Nick Chubb is the best player on this team. Why would you go away from him?
Well, and even in that drive where he threw that ball to Amari Cooper that he scored the touchdown on, that got called back because of the penalty, if it had been good, you would have given the ball back to Baltimore with 2.5 minutes left.
Yep.
Why you're not running the ball? I get that it's 7 points, right? So then you're up by 4. They got Justin Tucker. They can't settle for a field goal. They've got to go all the way down the field. That's bitten us in the butt a couple times already this season. Why wouldn't you do more on the ground when you're averaging 4.7 yards a carry? Why wouldn't you stay on the ground and try to kill more of that clock? Why are you trying to score fast? Because they did that a couple times yesterday. They went to these big plays to score fast, which is great, but now your defense hasn't had a break. And now you got to put your defense right back out there on the field. You're not using the run game to kill clock and give your defense a rest and control the line like you should. And the thought of moving Hunt, like I know the Panthers moved Christian McCaffrey over to the 49ers, and that's going to bode well for the Panthers. Although they then turned around and beat the crap out of Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Good Lord, that game. But the whole idea of Hunt is to have that 1-2 punch, to have a running back that you can put in there to give Chubb a rest and not let the defense think Chubb's not in, where they're not going to run the ball. Oh, we could still run the ball. We got Hunt. And you get rid of him and you lose that weapon. They're not going to be afraid of the rookie. They're not going to be afraid of him at all. But we've also gotten away from using Hunt for that. We're using him more for catching in the backfield because apparently Chubb can't catch a ball in the backfield. So when you put Hunt in, you know what they're going to do. So it's just, I'm just so puzzled. I don't understand the way they're using the talent they have, which is, you can do that on offense or defense. I'm very puzzled by the decisions and the calls that I'm getting from both Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods on defense. Special teams doesn't bother me. Cade York looked better this week. He had a rough week 2 weeks ago with those 2 missed field goals in that game, but he looks better this week. I'm still I watched that block punt a couple times, and I'm still not sure what was up with that, unless there was another issue with the snaps. I didn't have a good camera angle on that.
Well, they said they moved it up half a yard.
He bounced it, and Bojorquez was lucky enough to get it and put it down and let Cade get to it. So I don't know if that was in his head. It didn't look like they had enough penetration to get to it, but they did. So that was just a weird one. Blocks don't bother me as much as misses or fumbled snaps from the special teams. I'm more concerned with the play calling on offense and what's going on defense. It didn't help that Denzel Ward was out with his second or third concussion. That makes me nervous. That boy has spent more time off the field than on the field since we drafted him. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get to special teams when we're going to take a break in about a minute or two. But one of the things that can be said is that last week, Cade York was in warm-ups kicking the ball kind of low. So I don't know if that kind of translated into what happened yesterday, and they moved the ball, I believe, up half a yard or whatever when they attempted to kick it. So one of the things that George says is that maybe Stefanski might need to check his ego at the door and let Alex Van Pelt call plays. He also said we're getting into the track of agony and ecstasy. The ecstasy you are the Buckeyes and their beat down along with the Cavs, but we're getting agonized with the Browns' consistency and are on the L side. So yeah, a lot of frustration going on because this is a team where they should be performing better than what they are, and this is the same thing that we're going through year after year after year, and it's very frustrating.
I will add one more to George's list because I'm petty like that. The agony of the Guardians losing and then the ecstasy of the Yankees getting swept. I am petty as heck when it comes to that, and I will be petty. And I'm done watching baseball. It's shameful to me that the Astros are going to the World Series again. Absolutely shameful that they cheat. They were caught cheating, and the penalty was nothing. Was nothing for them to go to the World Series, 4 times in the last 6 years? Shameful.
Yeah, so needless to say, I am rooting for Philly to go ahead and win. I was rooting for the San Diego Padres because they haven't had a title, but unfortunately, Philly just got hot at the right time. I think that they're just like the Atlanta Braves, where they have the worst record going into the playoffs. So I think the Phillies had the worst record going into the playoffs, and they got hot at the right time. So I will be rooting for Philly, but I'm really happy to see the New York Yankees get swept. So that's where I'm at on that. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Is approaching fast. The
I'm
Spot
getting a
Youth
ton of
Empowerment
feedback. Is anyone else
Organization
hearing
is
it?
preparing for the annual
Static.
hat and glove distribution program called Project Warm.
I was
From
muting
November
my mic.
1st
I don't
through
know. I don't think
January
it's me,
7th, 2023,
but it was
the Spot Youth
sounded like
Empowerment
static.
Organization will collect hats, gloves, and socks. With the cost of living increasing, many families are struggling financially. Project Warm will provide winter accessories for these families. The Spot Youth Empowerment Organization mission is to assist individuals with knowledge to change their lives through resources, education, training, and empowerment. With the goal of collecting 5,000 items this year, we need your help. WOVU 95.9 FM is an official collection site to drop off hats, gloves, socks, and more for Project Warm. Come down to 7201 Kinsman Road, Suite 104, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. For more information, please call 216-323-6049. That's 216-323-6049. This message is brought to you by the Spot Youth Empowerment Organization and WOVU 95.9 FM in Burtonville Carr Community Radio.
All right, welcome back to WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Brandy Fairfax and Miss Cleveland Kate, and we are discussing the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, the Cleveland Browns had a terrible loss yesterday, but right now we're 4 terrible losses in a row, so that's what we're racking up right now. We just talked about the offense. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. But before we get into that, just want to remind you that you can always listen on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can also download the WOVU app and listen to us on the go. Also, don't forget that you can listen to us online at WOVU.org, and you can always call the station at 216-271-0959. And ladies, let's talk about this defense. So yesterday, I don't think the defense looked as terrible as they have been looking over the past few weeks. Would y'all agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, for the most part, I agree.
Okay. So one of the things is I feel like they were tackling better, but Lamar is just Lamar. So Kate, going back to that field goal, one of the things I wanted to say was, if he made that field goal and we were up, I, like you, felt like over 2 minutes left. There are certain quarterbacks in the NFL that you can't give that much time to, and Lamar Jackson is one of those quarterbacks. So I felt like,
I mean, we sacked him. We sacked him a couple times. There were a couple 3-and-outs that the defense pulled off that I thought were really nice. They backed him up, did to him what they were doing to us, right? Sacked him twice on the same drive, backed him up to, had him punting out of their own end zone. The problem is then when your defense puts that much effort forth, they need a break. It does not help when your offense then goes 3-and-out as well, because that's an emotional thing for them to get up and get on him. Lamar's one of those quarterbacks, to your point, he's going to get his. You got to control that. And I worry about giving him the ball with 2 minutes left more than I worry about giving him the ball with 10 minutes left. I feel like, and he's proven this season that they are beatable. They're not good this year. Our whole division is a hot mess. Cincinnati finally last night looked like, they're looking more like what I thought they should look like and what I thought Joe Burrow looked like. It makes me nervous for this Monday night spotlight on us next week. that it's either going to be an epic, embarrassing beatdown for us, or if we can somehow find a way to win, it's just going to be a continuation of last year. The Bengals may have gone to the Super Bowl last year, but we beat them twice because there's something going on. We are living rent free in their heads, and they have an issue with us. So I have no guess on how that's going to be. I just don't like the fact that it's Monday Night Football and everyone's going to be watching on Halloween. Well, maybe people will be trick or treating and they won't watch. I don't know. Maybe trick or treat will be done by then. At least them West Coast people will be trick or treating.
Oh yeah, trick or treat usually end at like 8:00, and the game start at 8:25. So
yeah,
people
but that's
might be
5:25 in California, so they'll be trick or treating.
Yeah. So people might be home eating their treats by then.
Ohio will be
over here
watching,
on the
that's
East
for
Coast.
sure.
Yeah, I'll be watching too. But I don't know. For whatever reason, last season we were able to sweep Cincinnati. So I feel as if, that there's a possibility that we can win this game. So far, we've been able to play very well against Joey Burrow. So that's another thing that we have going against us. Maybe they can dial up some of the magic that they've had last year against him. So I think that it's a possibility that they could win this game. I think that they go into every game and they come out of every game where we say they should have won this game. They could have won this game. And that's one of the things that I'm scared about next week is we're going to be saying that. But I honestly believe that, these men are going to, I wouldn't say strap up, but they're going to be different this week because losing 4 games in a row is a lot.
That New England game was different, but I could argue we were one drive away from winning every other game this year. One drive. Either the defense stops the other team on a drive or we have a more successful last drive to win the game. That New England game, to me, I think that New England game is a more realistic view of this team right now than all these 3 and 2 point losses because people think that we're not that bad. We're just unlucky. And I'm of the complete belief that we are bad, that there is something wrong somewhere and we are bad. And I'm stressed. I almost want to see Dobbs next week. I don't want to see Jacoby Brissett again. I'd like to see what Dobbs has got.
I'd like to see what Dobbs has
got. I got no hope to win another game between now and when Deshaun gets back. So what lesson can I learn? I can't learn nothing new from Jacoby Brissett for the next couple weeks. Why not let Dobbs get some reps? Let's see what he's got. Brandy, you still on the Jacoby Brissett train, or are you with me? You heading to Dobbs land?
I think I'm still on the Jacoby train. I think at this point, we're heading into week 8. So I think, we only have a few more weeks until Deshaun comes back. The bye week will be, after the Bengals game. So I think at this point, stick with Jacoby and hopefully, the defense will be able to step up to get us to win these next few games as they're going to be facing, even tougher quarterbacks.
Sorry about that. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So back to the defense. Did y'all notice that one of the things that they were doing was they were tackling better? And I didn't really see a whole bunch of shoulder dip tackles that weren't really tackles at all. So we were seeing some of that. It looks like the defense was playing a little bit better. I believe that they put the Browns in a position to win by getting some takeaways. That was critical takeaways, but yet our offense wasn't able to do anything with them. So I say that the defense is taking a step in the right direction. They were able to get to Lamar a few times. So being able to tackle Lamar, that challenge yesterday, I don't disagree with it, but Lamar is such a magician. You can almost believe that he put his knee down, but he didn't. So
I absolutely disagree with it. What was it going to get you even if you won it? 7 yards? Why would you risk a challenge and losing a timeout for 7 yards? They still had to punt. Whether they were punting from 10 yards off the line or 17 yards off the line, they weren't going to go for it on 4th and 10. So it's not like it was 4th and 2 and you're like, I need those 7 yards because they might go for it on 4th and. There's no way they were going for it in that situation. I would have never risked losing a timeout for 7 yards. No.
Well, I mean, it kind of looked like I think in real life it looked like his knee touched the ground, but you could clearly see on the replay that his knee didn't touch the ground. So, I mean, I can understand how and why they challenged it, but at the end of the day, it was an unsuccessful challenge. So, that's one of the things in which you have to look at. Okay, I appreciate them doing that, but I don't think there was any other point in the game in which they would have been able to have a challenge. So, use your challenge since you got them. You could use it better and I'd say more smartly, but if smartly is a word. But it is what it is at the end of the day, and they didn't win that challenge. But I like what the defense did, and I think that they looked better, than normal. I haven't heard so much, people saying fire Joe Woods today, which is a good thing. So I think that you can take the small victories, and that's your defense playing better.
Yeah, I agree. I think, one of the biggest things coming into this game was how were they going to be able to contain Lamar, and I think they did pretty well at that yesterday. We did see, them fully wrapping up on tackles like we talked about last week. But I still think there were, a few plays where like the safeties and the corners just still aren't reading the offense correctly, to stop some of the touchdowns being ran in. So I think those things like that would just be one of the things that I would like to see the defense continue to step forward in.
Yeah, and the offensive line gave up 5 sacks yesterday, so we were able to sack Lamar 3 times. And like I said earlier, he had only 9 passes, so we were able to, keep these quarterbacks under 10 passes a game, 10 completed passes a game, and they're still beating us. So I think trying to understand that. Jedrick Wills looked terrible yesterday, so he got blown off the blocks a couple times, so that was a bad thing for Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby had that strip sack, which was just terrible. And that's the thing that, we're the defense is getting turnovers. Our offense just isn't being able to do anything with it. But I think that that was great, that they kept Lamar down to 9 passes. They kept Marcus Mariota down to 7 passes, and then they're still losing these games, which is just, these quarterbacks aren't beating you, so you're allowing the running game to do it. And you didn't even have J.K. Dobbins playing yesterday. Who was I can't remember who was the running back for Baltimore who kind of feasted upon us
Guy,
yesterday. Gus
guy,
Edwards.
Gus Edwards. So my
Yeah.
frustration with the turnovers is we're -4 turnovers for and against this year. And I think we've turned the ball over, I want to say 14 times, but I know that we have allowed the opponents to score on 11 of the times that we turn the ball over. I mean, that's the problem is they're happening in the second half when the defense is tired, the defense gets a stop, they get off the field and the offense comes out, and in the first or second play they turn the ball over. And so the opposing team has already got good field position because you turn the ball over on your side of the field and your defense didn't have any rest and they're just marching down and scoring. We cannot continue to give up points off of turnovers. That's been a huge problem this year.
Yeah, that definitely, was a game changer, especially, the offense turning it over, giving them the ball on their side of the 50. It's easy for them to score, especially how the defense has been playing. But now, Jacob Phillips tearing his pec, that's definitely going to hurt them. He
Mm-hmm.
was the second green dot. Anthony Walker is already out for the season. So that linebacker area, I think, they're definitely going to have to step up big. If any position on the defense is going to have to be the linebackers.
Taki played an okay game yesterday. He was kind of somewhere everywhere, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah also had a good game too yesterday. So I was kind of proud that the linebacking core kind of stepped up a little bit.
Definitely, I agree. And then on the offensive side, losing David Njoku yesterday, he was 7 for 7, which definitely hurts them on the offensive side. He was, been one of the biggest targets these past few weeks. So now it's like, who do we go to on the offensive side when throwing the ball?
And the defense, it makes their job easier, right? Because we had our third string tight end in there. So the defenses don't really know what to do with him, but they do know he hasn't gotten a lot of reps with the first string and he hasn't had a lot of time on the field. So they don't really worry about him. They're not, he wasn't good at blocking. He wasn't effective at much of anything yesterday. And it just gives them one less thing to worry about when Kevin loves them 2 and 3 tight end sets. It hurts when you lose Njoku.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was performing up to those contract standards as well. So that's going to be kind of painful losing him. And like Brandy said, losing Jacob Phillips to that shoulder injury. So he's gone for the year. And David Njoku will be out 2 to 7 weeks. So he's going to be out during the meat of this schedule. And when Deshaun comes back, and he could have been a great, weapon for Deshaun Watson as well. So he's definitely going to be missed. And Pharaoh Brown, we're down to like one tight end now, Harrison Bryant, right? So we're down to like one tight end now. So we're probably going to have to sign somebody to the practice squad or get somebody here. But
so,
yeah.
We could trade Kareem Hunt back to Kansas City and we take Travis Kelce. I'd be okay with that.
Travis Kelce ain't coming here.
Family from Jason,
I know, but he liked championships more than he liked family. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. Kansas City didn't look too good last week. They're lucky they're on a bye this week.
Maybe at the end of his career, he might come back. But we're going to go ahead and take a break, ladies. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Nicole Huffman of Inspired by Love, introducing the Organize My Life Community Group. Join us here on WOVU 95.9 FM and online for monthly organization tips to help you become more productive and less stressful. Great resources and tips that's no cost to you. Does the many hats you wear on a daily basis wear you down? Does it feel like your brain doesn't rest? Take the time to do a brain dump. Getting those thoughts out will help you organize the things you need to do and ideas to work on. Having this together will help remove barriers that you have in accomplishing your tasks. Remember, our theme for the month is to organize our to-do list. If you say, I just have too much to do, you're right. But once it's all in place, you will have a better system to get things done. Keep listening to WOVU 95.9 FM for more tips to build your Organize My Life toolbox. I am Nicole Huffman with Inspired by Love, and we are on this journey together. Let's get organized.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right. Welcome back to WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Cleveland Kate and Brandy Fairfax, and we were just discussing the Cleveland Browns. A lot of talk is going out about Mike Prefer. How do you ladies feel about Mike Prefer? Would you fire him or not? I am for leaving the coaches in place, finishing this year with the coaches, because if you fire him, what is it really going to change? Is it going to change the play on the field if you do that? What is it going to do? Mike Prefer was able to call a pretty much flawless game against Pittsburgh when we made it to the playoffs. I'm not for firing anybody. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm not for firing anybody, but somebody needs to. Maybe it's Jimmy. I like George's suggestion that Jimmy lets AVP call some of the plays. Maybe not the whole offense. Maybe you work in practice during the bye week on the 2-minute drill. And if we find ourselves in a 2-minute situation, you let Alex Van Pelt call the plays in the 2-minute drill. Like you set up specific situations where you'll let him run a sequence and let Kevin worry about being the head coach. But I don't like firing coaches in the middle of the season. I like them to be a little nervous, but I just don't think that you get a valuable replacement. And I don't think it makes the job attractive to new people if you're willing to fire people like the Panthers did 4 weeks into a season. Why would I want that job? Why would I want to work for someone who's not even going to let me work my program and finish out the year? Yeah, I just don't see the point. Unless they're doing something harmful to the team, I don't see the point in firing them. But somebody needs to have a stern talking to. I mean, I'll do it. I wish they'd have a contest to pick a fan to do the halftime speech because I'm a sign up. I will give them a halftime speech. I'm just saying. I will go mom on those men and I will give them a halftime speech.
They need an adult special wish. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm for leaving coaches in place. Brandy, what about you? What are your thoughts about that? Yeah. Are you on mute?
Technical difficulties here at this.
Okay. I can hear Kate. Brandy, go ahead. See if I can hear you.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kate.
We've had so much of that turnaround and stuff before, and I think it's just, again, George said, so they need to check their egos at the door, and they need to not just watch film to see what the players are doing. They need to watch film and question some of their own decisions. Stefanski's going to argue that we don't like the play calling because it's not working, because they're not executing, not that the plays themselves that were called are the problem. And I guess he has a point. I guess if they were executing the plays that he called, then we could argue more about the play calling. I just don't know that he's calling plays that they're successful at. I don't know that he's calling plays that they've executed well in practice. And I don't remember the last time we had a head coach that actually called plays that went to the strengths of the talent on the field instead of trying to force them into doing what the coach wanted them to do. And you got to find a balance for that. So I'm saying leave the coaches where they are. I don't want to trade Kareem Hunt. I think you do more damage than anything. If you're trying to say in the AFC North, you have to be able to run the ball, and our strong running game was one of our best strengths coming into the season. I don't know how I think you undermine a lot of things by getting rid of, trading Kareem Hunt at this point. And it's not like, in my opinion, you trade away Kareem Hunt and you fire coaches because you want to tank the rest of the season to get a draft pick. You have Deshaun Watson for the next few years. You're not looking to be the number one overall pick in the draft to get a quarterback. So those things don't make sense to me. That's exactly what Carolina did. They were hoping they had Eason starting, for goodness sakes. They're hoping to get back up into the conversation on that number one draft pick. That's not the situation the Browns are in.
So they chose to start Eason over Sam Darnold.
Division, Pittsburgh's in that conversation. We're not.
Yeah, so they chose to start Eason over Sam Darnold.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Brandy, can you talk now? See if I can hear you.
Nope.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on. So Brandy, you want to log back out and try to come back in? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and move on because we got about 20 minutes left. So I definitely want to hit a little bit of Cleveland Guardians, the Cavs, and Ohio State. Let's go to Cleveland Guardians. This past season, Kate, what would you do to improve this team?
Nothing. Literally nothing. They're very young. They outkicked their coverage. They overshot their expectations. We all thought they needed this year to really learn how to play baseball together as a professional team, get more experience. I thought next year they'd be threatening. The fact that they won the division and made it to the playoffs is just gravy for me. But I think their youth and their inexperience is what hurt them in the series against the Yankees. And I wouldn't change a thing about this team for next year. There's no sense wishing for the Dolans to spend more money and get me a name because I don't even know that there's anybody out there that I would want to put into this locker room. I think this team is one of those weird kind of magical teams where they all get along and it's a really good locker room, and I wouldn't want to mess that chemistry up. And I think talent-wise, we're gonna have Quan again next year. We're gonna have Jimenez again next year. Jose, a lot of these young guys. Well, Jose's not a young guy, but a lot of these young guys are going to be back next year, and they've got a year of really good experience under their belt. They know how to win, and they know what it's like to lose the heartbreaking games like they did in that series to the Yankees. And I wouldn't mess with anything. I wouldn't change anything.
Major League Baseball did all they can to help the Yankees and move that game to Monday instead of playing, or moved that game to a Tuesday instead of playing on that Monday night, and they still wasn't able to beat Houston. So I kind of knew that the Yankees were going to lose to Houston. Houston is just too much. I figured that eventually, if we had made it past the Yankees, we would have lost to Houston. I don't know if we necessarily might have been able to get swept, because Tristan McKenzie was the one pitcher who was able to go out there and win against Houston. So I feel like kind of when he's on the mound, this team can do and win and be anything. But I think that I appreciate the team chemistry and all that. That locker room, you could tell that those guys sincerely love each other. They fight for one another, and they were all in together this season. But I think you have to bring in a bat, because that bottom of the lineup was terrible. You had people hitting in the 100s, hardly any home runs coming from it. We're not a home running hitting team. We were one of the least home running teams in all of baseball, but you got to be able to get some home runs on the board. And you got to kind of address the catcher situation, because you're pretty much getting nothing from Austin Hedges, and his defense wasn't the best during the playoffs as well, too. So he wasn't able to wear anybody out.
That's the balance you got to find, right? Because some of those guys who were hitting in the 100s, like Straw, play really fierce defense. And it's like, what? Do I need him to hit, or do I need defense? I kind of need both. So right. I kind of need both. I don't know that we would have been swept by Houston. I feel like we matched up better with Houston, that our small ball game, because they didn't hit as many home runs as the Yankees did.
Yeah.
I feel like our small ball game would have given Houston problems where it didn't give New York. And I will say, to your first point, the last thing Major League Baseball wants right now is for the Guardians to prove that you can be successful in a team that's got a low payroll. They're not going to do anything that might help us get to the World Series, because that just shows all these other teams with low payrolls that you don't have to pay out the nose to be successful. And I agree with that. I don't want to go out and grab that big name free agent. I just want them to spend the money to keep guys like Frankie, that we, are homegrown guys. When you get a guy out of your farm system that you bring up and you move him along and he's really good, I want you to pay him to stay here. You know what I mean? I love that we have the Naylor brothers now. They're adorable. So I got that to look forward to for next year. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm a huge fan of Austin Hedges, but he didn't hit well this year. He was injured a couple times. I wouldn't mind seeing them do something, you're right, at the catcher position, or even, center field, right field, to get a bat in. But they've got to balance that need for a bat with, being able to play defense.
Mm-hmm. Brandy, what would you do to improve this team?
Yeah, I agree. I will say the first thing, I am happy, Tito having all those back surgeries. He said he's going to be back next year. So when I saw that, I was definitely excited. But, I think I agree with you guys. One of the things I would tweak is that bottom of the lineup. They definitely did struggle there in the playoffs. But, runners left on base in the series against the Yankees, the Guardians had 39 and the Yankees had 24. So we were doing well on hitting, but I would say, just the bottom ending of that lineup, definitely maybe a couple changes there for next year. But
yeah, because they couldn't drive home the guys who were on base already.
A little bit. Like, I understand why you have a guy batting leadoff. I understand why you have a guy batting cleanup. It frustrates me when 7, 8, 9 are three guys batting under 200, and it's like, all right, now you've hit the big empty spot in the lineup. So if you've got men on base, you got nobody to hit them in. If
Bases loaded.
Them a bit, if you pepper them through, maybe the third guy, the sixth guy, and the ninth guy have the lower averages, and you got a better shot at getting some of them in.
But how many times did we have bases loaded and we couldn't drive home a run in that series?
Definitely at least 3 or 4 times I remember we had bases loaded. But that, hurt us when they already had bases loaded, not being able to bring them in. And then also, starting an inning with at the bottom of the lineup also hurt, because they were getting, those 3 outs very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's very true. So those are things that we got to think about as, Chris Antonetti thinks about what will help this team, take the next step. And Kate, you mentioned MLB not wanting a team like the Guardians in. That's kind of like when you had Tampa Bay against the Dodgers in the World Series and how that kind of went. But I feel like that kind of was a good World Series. But, that's further proof that, these small, well, not necessarily small market, but these teams that don't spend a lot of money can go far. And I just, I agree with you as well too. I think that they could have given Houston some trouble as well with the style of baseball that they play, but who knows? And it's just unfortunately the Yankees. Everybody wanted to see the Yankees and see Aaron Judge after hitting 62 home runs, go to the World Series, and it just wasn't going to happen. But Brandy, that was an excellent stat that you brought up about leaving 39 men stranded. So we could have blown the Yankees doors off if we had the ability to be able to hit, which is so crucial. So you got to get some bats in there. And I'm okay, Miles Straw doesn't really have any home runs, and I don't think he was listed for the 5 Guardians that were for the Golden Glove. I don't think he was listed. So is his glove really that great that we can't afford to get rid of him?
That was the argument for putting him in there. The other thing, to Brandy's point, of when you've got those the lower end hitters all bunched together and then it makes it a real quick inning for the other team to get them out 1, 2, 3. The problem with that also is it extends into the game how long their starting pitcher stays there, because he's got a lower pitch count. If you have 2 guys that are forcing him to throw 4, 5, 6, 8 pitches because they're fouling him off before they get a hold of one, before he gets to one of the easy out guys, these guys were popping out. You know what I mean? They weren't making his pitch count higher, and so he wasn't getting tired, and he wasn't, the starting pitchers lasted longer into the game. I think if you mix that lineup up a little bit, like I said, put him in at 3, 6, and 9. So at least the pitcher's got to face somebody tough instead of 3 easy ones in a row. So he doesn't have that real easy inning that just helps him skate through farther into the game. Because we did a lot better when we could get the starting pitcher out and get to teams' bullpens, especially with the Yankees. If we could have gotten to their bullpen earlier in that last game, I think, because their bullpen was tired after that series, after those 2 games here, that when you're looking at not just an individual game, but when you're looking over the course of a series, the sooner you can get the starter out and get those arms tired in the bullpen, the better you do in games 3 or 4 of a series throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. And it doesn't help you when they got 3 easy outs that are all in the same inning together.
Yeah, if we could have got to that one pitcher, I forgot what his name was. It started with a T, who started that first game against the Astros. If we could have had him for game 5 instead of Nestor Cortez, we could be talking something different now. But coulda, woulda, shoulda. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little Cavs and talk a little Buckeyes. You've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Angela here at WOVU 95.9. We are a Burton Carr community radio station. Since 1990, Burton Bell Carr Development has been empowering residents, revitalizing blighted and unserved communities in Cleveland Central, Kinsman, and surrounding areas. Burton Bell Carr Development offers community planning, real estate development, empowerment services, connecting communities, area businesses with services needed to succeed. Help us build a brighter community by volunteering. For more information, visit us at bbcdevelopment.org or call us at 216-341-1455. Remember, we are WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station, streaming live on WOVU.org.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU 95.9 FM, and that pitcher was Jamison Talon. If we could have got Jamison Talon in Game 5, we could be singing something different, but that's okay, because even though the Cleveland Guardians had an excellent season, I'm so proud of them. They overachieved, and they took us to the highs and lows of playoff baseball. It is okay. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell leading our team, and ladies, is Donovan Mitchell as good as advertised?
I'd say I definitely think so.
He had 37 points last night in an overtime victory over the Washington Wizards, where they had led that game by over 14 points and sacrificed the lead to have to go into overtime. But right now, he is leading this team. There's still a lot that, has to take place with them coming together, learning our system and things of that nature. Right now, I'm loving the basketball that the Cleveland Cavaliers are playing. Unfortunately, they lost to Toronto on the road to open up the season. It's kind of tough, but they rebounded very nicely against against the Chicago Bulls, which was a playoff team. So they rebounded nicely against them and put a can of whoop butt on them. And, the Washington Wizards came into town and gave us everything, that we could handle. And we were able to win the game in overtime. But, I'm concerned about when Darius Garland's going to come back. So you don't have to put everything on Donovan Mitchell. What are you guys' thoughts about missing Darius Garland? Because I feel like if we had Darius Garland, that game would have ended in regular standard time.
Yeah, I think we would have definitely, finished that game out with not going to overtime. And I think we would have beat Toronto too if we had him. But we saw him yesterday with the sunglasses on during the game. So hopefully, his eye is healing and he'll be able to come back soon.
Yeah, I don't know if having Darius Garland would have helped against the Wizards, because those back-to-backs are brutal. And it's the beginning of the season and they're not kind of used to that kind of schedule. And when you got to travel even to someplace close like Chicago and put a can of whoop on them like we did, it was nice to see, the bench guys get in at the end of that game and get some minutes. Lopez looks like Varejao to me every time I see him on the court. It's freaking me out so bad I can't even. And then to have to do that and then back-to-back you come home for your home opener, I just felt like that was a pretty brutal thing to do to them, this early in the season. And for their home opener to be on a back-to-back after a travel day was rough. So I don't know that Garland would have made much difference, but they snapped out of it. Their funk from the travel or whatever it was, and really, put the hammer down to quote Austin Carr in overtime. So they got a couple days off, right, before they got to play again. It's early. I'm enjoying watching them play. Mitchell is above what I expected this early in the year. I wasn't expecting 30 points a game from him. I will take it. Thank you very much. But I wasn't expecting it. And I don't know how long he can carry on with that. If we're going to, if you rely too much on him, then you might wear him out and tire him out too early in the season. So I'm hopeful another week or so we'll see Darius Garland back, and that'll help things, get me some balance from the point scoring perspective.
Because I'm not seeing no timetable. And just shout out to Jared Allen for everything that he's doing inside on the low block as well, taking it, to Kristaps Porzingis yesterday. So that was one of the things that he was able to do, be effective on offense and stuff like that. So, he's trying to emerge as well as a go-to person for this team. And like we said, this team could potentially have 3 All-Stars. But you mentioned the schedule, Kate, and I'm not sure if you're aware that they take their West Coast trip in like 2 weeks. So I don't know why they have that, they have that West Coast trip so soon in the season now. It was like that last year. The years in the past, it normally was in January, but they got them starting off against the West Coast very early this year. So it'll be a very crucial test regarding, where this basketball team is at and what they're trying to do. So I'm definitely hoping that we can get Darius Garland back very soon.
Yeah, I like doing that West Coast trip earlier. They're fresher because the season's new. They might still be a little rusty. I like doing it before the holidays. I find those first 2 weeks in January, for at least from watching the Cavs, you have Thanksgiving and then you have all the snow and then you have Christmas. And I feel like those first 2 weeks of January, they're kind of in this after holiday funk. So I like them doing that West Coast trip earlier. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I like it. Get it in, get it over with, get it done. Let's see who you are. Let the team use that as like a measuring stick for where they're at and what they need to work on for, rolling into December and January.
Brandy, where are you at on the West Coast trip? Don't tell me you agree with Kate.
I don't. I like it later.
Okay.
January, especially, now getting Donovan Mitchell. We have some new pieces. I'm also waiting for, Ricky Rubio to come back. He was a great leader last year. He did great being able to bring Darius, on the bench to be able to get a break is huge with Ricky Rubio and not have to worry with that point guard position. But I think, I'd rather wait, let them find their footing. I'm still, waiting to see how Karis LeVert, especially, coming from Indiana, to really find his footing with the team this year because we didn't see too much of that last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the face of this team? Who is the one guy that you think everyone's going to know by the end of the season? Like, there's always been one guy, right? Kevin Love, Kyrie, LeBron. Like, we've had Tristan. We've had, like, the face of the franchise kind of guys here in the past. Who is that on this team right now?
Donovan
or who should
Mitchell.
it be?
I think it's Donovan Mitchell already. I mean, he's averaging 30 points a game.
I disagree. I was just curious what you thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brandy, who you think is the face of the franchise?
Yeah, I think, it's definitely between Donovan Mitchell and Darius once he gets back on the court. I think from a leadership standpoint, Donovan is more of a vocal one compared to Darius. So I think, he definitely has that one. But Darius, we've seen he's so young into his career and he's done very well taking on the role that the Cavs have given him to become a leader at such a young age. So, I think going into his fourth year, we're just going to see that develop even more this year.
Yeah, I forgot what I was about to say, but it was going to be a great point. I can't remember. It was going to be really good too. It was going to be about that, but I don't know. So let's go ahead and move on to Ohio State football. So Ohio State had a slow start yesterday against the Iowa Hawkeyes because the Iowa Hawkeyes had one of the best ranked defenses in all of the country. So it took a little bit for Ohio State to be able to get into their rhythm. And once they got into rhythm, actually Iowa held them to some field goals. And I was like, this might be kind of interesting. But Ohio State was able to get into their rhythm. Iowa could only hold off so long, and CJ Stroud, just went ahead and just did what he did, and that was pretty much it for Iowa. And once again, another blowout victory, but it was very ugly in the beginning. Penn State coming up this week. I don't know about if it's a whiteout conditions because it's a 12 p.m. game, which is kind of rare. Usually we play Penn State at night because they're a permanent rival. Overall thoughts about this game really quickly, and going into Penn State, will we be able to win against Penn State?
I will just say two things. I like the adversity they faced early in the game because CJ Stroud doesn't face a lot of tough defenses, and he needs to. He needs to know what he's good at, what he's not good at. And we as fans need to know that they can start off rough, but still keep their head down and get it done. But I will tell you this. Ryan Day's going to give me a heart attack if he keeps putting CJ Stroud in when we're up by 30 points. Stop. Like, I'm putting 24 points or more, and CJ's on the bench. If they close the gap, then you put him back in. But it's giving me a heart attack every week when he's in, and I think he should be on the bench. I know why this week they wanted to make sure he had a couple good series before they pulled him out to just kind of leave that first quarter bad taste out of his mouth and make sure he had some successful stuff to look at this week. But it about gives me a heart attack every week.
All right, Brandy, really quickly, we got about a minute left.
Yeah, so, I think Ohio State already, usually they start off slow. A lot of people always say, they score most of their points in the second half anyways. But I think going into Penn State, they're probably going to be our second toughest opponent besides that team up north during this regular season. But I think, they're definitely going to be able to win this game. One thing I will say is I did not expect Jackson Smith-Njigba to be out this long. So I'm definitely waiting for him to come back. I did not think his hamstring, was that bad.
Yeah, I guess you can pull a hammy pretty bad and it affects you tremendously. But one of the good things is that, we're kind of, we were known as DBU, now at times linebacker U, but right now we're kind of known as wide receiver U. So, it's good that we have that depth and they're stepping up. Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for your time. That's our show today. And it's been a great show. So I'm always happy to have you guys with me. You've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM, and we are out of here.
Bye. See you
later.
Bye,
ladies. Thank y'all so much, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Okay.
Bye, Brandy.